So the first race of the 2015 Blancpain Sprint Series has taken place at Nogaro. What a race, John.
Well, we've had two great races, the qualifying race on Sunday, then the main race on Monday, Easter Monday here in Nogaro. And we've even had a beautiful day. I mean, sometimes it's not always as nice as it is, but you couldn't have had a better day. You could have said we've had almost Brazilian weather here today, because I think the big story of this weekend is the fact that the Brazilian BMW team have finally won an event, and they won the main race, the big points money and the big paycheck here in Nogaro. And just it's the sheer emotion and almost that sort of, thank goodness we've finally got a win under our belt. They're going nuts out there at the minute.
Yes, you were almost washed away by the passion down in the pit lane. They came within half a second yesterday. Maxime Martin chasing down Stefano Telli, couldn't manage it. So the first blood in the qualifying race, of course, to the number 3 Audi. But today, the roles were reversed. But there was that hiccup halfway through the race. We didn't know what had happened. But the car that went on to win the race lost about 7 seconds in the pits and dropped down to second position behind the number 2 Audi. What happened?
Well, we think it might have been an ignition problem, restarting the car. I'm not quite clear. We need to get down to the BMW team and actually find out what was the precise problem. But certainly they lost a lot of ground, and we saw Maxime Martin walking up to the pit wall, then walking away, shaking his head. He had done his job. He had gotten that car into the lead and consolidated by 4.5 seconds. Normally they would expect a straightforward handover to Dirk Muller, who, again, capable of doing the job we saw him do. But there was Enzo Weed and Christopher Mies. That car suddenly found itself in the lead. But, of course, Enzo Weed hasn't got the out-and-out pace that his own teammate Stefano Telli had. So the team got on the radio and said, look, Stefan is quicker, let him go. Because we need Stefan to try and run down Dirk Muller in the lead BMW to try and get a victory here this afternoon. Stefano Telli, as ever, heart of a lion, drives the wheels off anything he's ever given, and certainly in an Audi he does that. Got within, 0.3 of a second as they came across the line. But Dirk Muller, experienced, a long-time friend and driver for BMW, knew what he had to do, wasn't going to be affected by the pressure from the Audi, and took victory.
Now, that's BMW, that's Audi. We had 9 makes of car here at Nogaro. We'll have the same number at Brands Hatch. Can we see a challenge from any of the others? We had a Bentley coming home fourth with Maxi Buch at the wheel. Is the Brands Hatch the sort of circuit that might suit?
Well, the Bentley we've seen in the last season, very, very strong performances. Primarily we've seen them in the Enduro Series. This is a sprint race series, so it's slightly different. Now, Bentley came here and they said, well, we don't think Nogaro per se is a circuit that is a natural match for the qualities of the Bentley. It still was a very quick car. They were unfortunate in the qualifying race to be knocked literally out of the field, down the field. Had they started more where you'd imagine the front 2 rows, that would have been a strong challenge. But at Brands Hatch, it's a much different style of circuit, swooping up and down, those famous Brands Hatch corners, a lot of downforce needed. I think the Bentley will be a strong competitor there.
Now, one car that had a quiet weekend that came away with great results was the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. Minded its own business, but a very strong lineup in Marco Siegfried and Norbert Siedler, 5th today.
Well, I'm surprised that we don't have more Ferraris, but that's just the nature of GT racing. Teams pick and choose the championships, the series that they want to compete in. But the Ferrari is a strong car in GT3 racing across the world. So it's good to see Ferrari in a competitive end of a field, because the public are familiar with the name Ferrari. Some of the other names maybe not quite so familiar with, but if Ferrari is winning, we saw them winning in Malaysia just 2 weeks ago, it lifts the global interest in motorsport in general, and of course focuses on Blancpain in particular.
Now, there's one duo that's going to Brands Hatch on the back foot. They didn't get to start the race. They've been setting the pace in practice. That's the number 1 WRT Audi of Lawrence Vanthoor, we know so well, but coming across to GT racing from single-seaters, Robin Freins looked really good, but then sadly went off. They're starting on 0 points when they go to Brands Hatch.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of points to give up, and it'll be very difficult, because fundamentally the reliability of the cars at the front is extremely good, and they've all got top drivers, so you're not going to get too many balls being dropped, literally by the team or by the driver lineups. So they've got a big, big job in the remaining 6 rounds to try and claw back. But, you know, lots of things can take place. Weather is a factor often. You know, Brands Hatch, we're hoping for a weekend like we've had in Nogaro. I hope it is a beautiful weekend for both the race fans and for the competitors. But weather's a factor. You can never dismiss it. So you never, ever know. And your point is you never give up. You always believe there's still a chance, even though they've had an awful weekend, didn't turn a wheel other than in qualifying when the car unfortunately ended up against the barrier and broke its suspension and broke the chassis in turn. So that car will be back, and with Lawrence Van Thor, who is acknowledged as being one of the great GT drivers of the day, alongside a really, really quick single-seater driver, Robbins Friends, that car is a winning car at any day of the week.
We also ought to mention that McLaren showed great pace in the qualifying race yesterday with Rob Bell and Kevin Estre. Not so much today. Perhaps they'll move into the mix. Don't forget, they did manage to run near the front.
Well, the McLaren is inherently the most pure of all the cars out there. It's the closest to an out-and-out racing car. And the team have moved forward with the 650S. It's an evolution of the original MP412C. So that car has got lots and lots of performance, which they've yet to sort of access. And sort of Kevin Estre and Rob Bell in that car, I would put those two drivers in any car, in any grid, in a Blancpain event, and I'd expect them to be at the front.
Well, I think we can say that GT racing has almost never looked better. Brilliant sunshine here at Nogaro. Great field of cars. The endurance round next weekend in Monza. But Brands Hatch should be very special, and I think the whole lot will be jigged around, and that's what we want. We don't want to know who's going to win in advance, and we certainly didn't today. Each of those 2 races were split down to less than half a second. Yeah,
I mean, the battle between the BMW in the qualifying race on Sunday, the battle between the BMW and the Audi, again, well, just under half a second in effect in both races. And you know, audiences want to see competitive motorsport, whether it be in Blancpain GT or other forms of motorsport. And they don't want to have this kind of one-make domination, which is, or one-make series even, which is so much a format today of modern motorsport. And it's great to see, you know, prestige GT cars, McLarens, Ferraris, Audis, BMWs, Porsches, Mercedes, Nissan, Bentley, all racing on pretty much a level playing field. Remember, the balance of performance is an integral part of this championship, so that no one manufacturer or team has an unfair advantage or just an advantage over the rest of the field. So you will get multiple winning manufacturers over the course of the season.
And that's how it should be. So we've got underway really well at Nogaro. Roll on, Brands Hatch.